So I don't know that I need a little bit of a miracle here, Sammy. I need a couple of things to go in my direction. I need some Patrick Mahomes. I need some Xavier Worthy. I will tell everybody who's listening right now. Earlier today, it was not confirmed, but Ian Rappaport seems confident that Xavier Worthy is going to be a go tonight. We'll keep a lookout for that information to make sure that we have the most up to date ready information. Listen, I need Xavier Worthy as much as anybody else. We're going to try to get these fantasy victories going. So without further ado, Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Welcome to our Fantasy Island.
Welcome to Fantasy Island here on a Monday. I know you're like, no Kendall? No, but still stick around. Please don't leave just because Kendall Valenzuela is not with us tonight. We're going to go out there and try to answer as many fantasy questions as possible as we look forward to the Monday night game. Jacksonville playing host to the Kansas City Chiefs, and also look at some of the pertinent injury information that happened over the weekend. I want to start with what happened at SoFi Stadium, steps away from where I am right now. Obviously, the LA Chargers dropped a tough one to the Washington Commanders, which I don't know. I'm trying to go back and forth whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for the Bears. Whether this, if this is going to end up like, hey, at least Washington got a victory. They're not doing that, but at the same time, I don't think any of it matters because this is going to be a big game for both the Bears, both the Washington Commanders. I'm curious to see what happens with Ben Johnson. I'm cautiously optimistic that he is going to have this team ready to go. I know a lot of people, a lot of Bears fans. This is a big game considering what happened last season. And anybody who is of a certain age also knows too. And I bring this up because people ask me all the time, like, hey, feels like you don't like the Commanders, then feels like you don't like San Francisco. You're like, yeah, if there's anybody who is like over the age of, I'm gonna say 35, that you grew up not liking Washington and San Francisco. And I didn't like them because my dad didn't like them. And because of that, those were the teams in the 80s that the Bears were competing against. Like if it wasn't for San Francisco and Washington, the Bears probably would have had like 2 or 3 more Super Bowl appearances during the 1980s, but always ran into those buzzsaws. But in any event, now you guys don't care about that. But looking at what is going to go on for this coming week, I'm curious to see Ben Johnson's approach. This is a huge game for the psyche of a lot of Bears players, including Tyreek Stevenson. But one of the most interesting things, one of the more interesting developments over the last couple of hours, I will say, is our guy, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who is a player we were very high on coming into the season, a running back that we thought could end up having a huge role with the Washington Commanders. Yesterday, finally had his breakout game for the Commanders, 2 touchdowns in that one. And what we really saw with the Commanders came out and they did not look good in the opening quarter, maybe the first half. I would even say the half. And then things started to change around. Number one, there was a fumble by Quentin Johnston, like a brutal fumble, while the Chargers were again having another promising drive. We're really on the cusp of perhaps putting that game away when Quentin Johnston had a fumble. Obviously, he's had trouble holding onto the football, but to have a brutal fumble in that point, and he ends up going on to have his worst game of the season. Looking back at what Quentin Johnston has been able to do this year, he's really kind of overcome the drop problems, the boneheaded mistakes, reared its ugly head here in week 5 against the Commanders. Is that going to be something that they hold against them? Because watching the Chargers yesterday, now I knew that they were going to try to focus on getting the ball to Ladd McConkey, which they did. Ladd McConkey had a bigger role in the offense. Anytime Justin Herbert got near the goal line, he was trying to find Keenan Allen. It's obvious Keenan Allen is his go-to guy. Keenan Allen is the player that he trusts the most, especially near the goal line. But again, it didn't work out for them. But they had, so Quentin Johnston, who again, like I'm concerned. Patrick Claybon, who I just finished with here on NFL Fantasy Live, not as concerned. I certainly am. I look at that though. So that was a big play, and then also Ladd McConkey's punt return was nullified by a roughing the punter. And by the way, and I was listening to Jeff Manns. I was listening to some of the guys on Sirius XM today. And it was funny. They kept talking about like, the Chargers got robbed of these points because of this call and everything. And I'm like, I hope everybody realizes that it was the correct call. Like you cannot run into the back leg of the punter. Like that is an easy roughing the punter. Like that is as automatic as it goes. If you get the back leg of the punter, that is an automatic flag. There's no debating it. There's no like, well, it's you can't argue it. Like it is what it is. It was so those plays helped get it around. Also, what helped turn around the fortunes for the Commanders was Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Big Bill, as they like to call him. He was fantastic again, rushing for 2 touchdowns. This week, this is the thing that concerns me. I know everybody's going to be looking at the matchup between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. But to me, it's JCM. It's Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. When you look at what Ashton Jeanty did 2 weeks ago, if the Bears do not figure out a way to stop the run this week, that is going to be a huge issue. Now, obviously, they were able to escape with a victory over the Raiders. I don't think that Jaden Daniels is going to be as generous with the football as Geno Smith was. So the Bears were able to dodge a bullet in a sense with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt last week. I don't know, or with Ashton Jeanty. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, or last week, whatever. That they cannot do that again. So my advice, again, if I take the Bears homerness out of this, you can make the argument that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is going to end up as the RB1 this week because it's an issue, and it really, until the Bears go out there and stop it, it is going to be an issue for this team. I don't think that I still believe they're going to win the game, but you got to stop the running attack. Like that was huge. That was a huge breakout game, and it could not work out better for anybody who has Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in fantasy purposes. This is the perfect place. Like not only do you have a guy who had a huge breakout game, and if you missed it, if you kept him on the bench, I would say about 80% of my fantasy teams have Bill somewhere because I loved him coming into this season, and I started him in about half of them. And you're like, well, who did you? I started Jonathan Taylor and CMC over him in one of my leagues. I know for sure. So I think that was I know that it probably didn't end up being the correct call based on the points, but no, you're not sitting CMC and Jonathan Taylor. That's just not happening. I also had I did start Cam Scatterbo over him too. I felt a little bit better about that one. It didn't work out, obviously, but I felt a little bit better about that one too. Also, Amarian Hampton is going to be on the IR. He's going to be out for at least 4 weeks. Kamani Vidal, Vidal, last season, everybody who's followed me for any amount of time knows I love Kamani Vidal. Loved him. One of my top sleepers last season, one of the big rookies. We talk about it. It's funny because we talk about this because last year I was into Bucky Irving, Ladd McConkey, Kamani Vidal. Like that's always the one. Like you're always as good as like your worst pick. So nobody ever comes out and says, "Hey, Rank, great job on Bucky Irving," or "Great job with Ladd McConkey." It's like, "Oh, but you also like Kamani Vidal." Like nobody can ever celebrate wins. And I find this because as we sit here, and Colleen Wolf and I were talking about this, like we had some great picks in our picks thing for the NFL media group, and it's like nobody will ever like Connie Fox. That's her nickname. Connie Fox was one of her nicknames on the Around the NFL show. But it's funny because she called the Patriots beating the Bills. And so she tweets it out. And then people are all like, "Oh, but you called the Vikings Minneapolis." And like, really? Like nobody could ever just for once be like, "Hey, you made a great call. Props to you." Nope. They got to dig through. Like I predicted the 49ers would beat the Rams on Thursday night. People were like, "Yeah, but in 2019, you said," like this is how far back we're going. You got to dig back to 2019 to go out there and try to do it. You can't crown anybody. Just can't give anybody their flowers. And speaking of crowning people, listen, Crowned Champs just dropped the hottest thing in all of fantasy football. We're talking about customized rings, scepters, robes, and more importantly, awesome crowns. Too often, your fantasy football season is ended with a lame plastic trophy, maybe a GG in the group chat, but that ain't it. We're talking about Crown Champs, baby. You go to crownchampscompany.com. Sign up. It's less than $3 per person per month. You can go out there and win some of the best merch that fantasy football has ever seen. Go to crownchampscompany.com. That's crownchampscompany.com. Use the code SICK, and you will get 15% off your order. It is the best thing that has happened to fantasy football since Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. How about some questions, though, Sammy? Is there any way? Do we have a question? You know what? I don't have my glasses. I gotta do a better job. I gotta see them on this screen. Oh no, wait, I got glasses. I got glasses. Everybody calm down. We're good. Brenton Strange over Hollywood Brown, PPR flex. You know what? I do like Brenton Strange tonight. I really do. I think that's a pretty good play. I feel like you're in the way you asked that question. I feel the instinct as well. You know, Jacksonville's defense has been pretty good this season. One of the key matchups this week. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has done a good job protecting the football so far this season. 1 interception in his first 4 games. Jacksonville leads the NFL with 13 takeaways. I still like Brenton Strange in this one. I think Brenton Strange has been one of the true breakout players. And honestly, when you look back at Liam Cohen's time with Tampa Bay last season and how effective Cade Otton was, Brenton Strange, that was a guy that we were on earlier this year, and it is now starting to pay off just a little bit. All right, how about another question there, Sammy? Okay, I have Barkley and Kyren as my 2 running backs with Alvin Kamara as my 3rd. Do I drop Kamara for JCM for the rest of the year? I will tell you this. So this feels like one of those leagues where you don't get a deep bench or you have a smaller. I think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is a better long-term play for Alvin Kamara. I know a lot of people lose their minds and everything like that. Unless Alvin Kamara gets traded, I'm not very hyper about him. I think that's going to be a slow go. I love this Commanders offense. And you know what, with Jayden Daniels, we saw it a little bit yesterday. Now, Jayden did use his legs effectively, but it was more measured than you would expect. It wasn't a full thing. And I think at some point, I know you don't want to coach, you don't want to take the athleticism away from Jayden Daniels. You still want him to go out there and do his thing. You still want him to go out there and be the electric player that he is. But if he has a running game that he can rely on, you want the threat of Jayden Daniels more than you want the rushing sometimes, if that makes sense. You want him to go out there and be like, well, he can do this. It's kind of like when the Macho Man was a killer commentator in the WWE. Now, you couldn't step to Macho Man because even though he was retired, you knew he could still throw hands. At the same time, like that's what you want out of Jayden Daniels. Like, look, know that I can run when I need to. I hope I don't need to. I want to go with JCM. So I do like the idea of going with Bill for the rest of the year. All right. How about another question there, Sammy? What do we got? We're cooking now. There we go. If you had Jayden Daniels and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on the same roster, would you be looking to move one of them? You know what? I don't normally like stacking running backs and quarterbacks, but in this instance, because Washington is one of the most effective running teams in the NFL, I kind of like it. I will kind of allow it. If it was Matthew Stafford and Kyren Williams, that I don't like as much. That I don't like because Matthew Stafford's not contributing in the rushing game at all. And again, going back to my point, like I don't think that Jayden Daniels is going to go out there and rush for 1,000 yards this season, partly because he already missed 2 games. But at the same time, you don't want him overextending himself that much this season. I still believe that given everything, I think you'd still play both of them because the floor that Jayden Daniels is giving you as a runner is pretty nice. So I feel like you should feel safe going with both of those. It's not a traditional stack. It's not the stack that I usually like to go with. It does remind me a couple of years ago, one of the best fantasy leagues I ever won. It was the season when Jamal Charles had the monster game against the Raiders. It was like a week 15, week 16 game. You remember the one Jamal Charles had like 4, I think he had 4, 6 touchdowns, something like that. But Alex Smith threw him 2 touchdowns. So there are times where I think the quarterback running back situation can work. And I think with Jayden Daniels and Big Bill, you're going to be able to do it here with both those guys. By the way, as I'm sitting here, you see me, my voice trailing off a little bit, but the way that I'm able to battle through these days is because of our friends at Huel. Huel protein powders are one of the greatest products that I have ever had in my life. I sit here a lot of times. Look, I don't have an opportunity to eat. I'm skipping a lot of meals. I have to rely on things like, meal replacement. Huel has been the very best one that I've ever tried. I just threw my bottle away because I finished it in between finishing NFL Fantasy Live. I should have known I was going to come here and talk about it. If Esther was still around, I'd have her bring me the bottle. But Huel, it is amazing. Like, I've tried it all. I've done everything, and Huel is the absolute best. And the best part is you can go to Huel.com/sickbears. That's Huel.com/sickbears. Use our promo code SickBears. You'll get 15% off your order. I just placed an order today. I believe in this product. I love this product. It has been keeping me going, whether I'm going from my kids' soccer games or whatever, if I'm going from soccer practice, going out to Chapman University to go teach my course. Huel has been my fuel. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it's been helping me so far this season. All right, do we have another question there, Sam? What are we working with here? Want to be here for the people. I should just leave my glasses on. Although I could straighten this out a little bit too. I got ETN and Strange and need 30. Mickey, you know what's funny is we do a segment on the NFL Fantasy Live called Believe It or Not. And a lot of times I always believe, because why don't you believe? Like, the weirdest things always happen in fantasy football. I truly believe that Travis Etienne can end up scoring 30 fantasy points on his own. I know this is a tough defense, but they've been able to run the ball effectively. We saw last week that he did really well against the 49ers. He's done well this season. And Brenton Strange, as I talked about earlier this evening, is another guy that you can go out there and trust on your trust moving forward. So I really like that. All right. Just sorry, real quick. Yeah, so I like it. I think you're going to be pretty good. Some of the other things too, I wanted to let you know as we're moving on here, as I look over some of my notes here. In all, of course, the trade for. It's so funny. I'm looking at like our homework assignment. Marcus tomorrow. Player to trade for. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. You know what? This is the time of year people are going to be looking to trade Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He just had an amazing game. Trade for him. We did talk about that. We did talk about, you know what? Some of the other notes too. Oh gosh, who is the guy? So we're starting to put together some of our waiver wire options. Let's start taking a look at the waiver wire. All right, Rico Dowdle. Now, obviously, if you didn't pick up Rico Dowdle on Sunday, it's too late. He's gone. Like, everybody's blowing their fab on Rico Dowdle. The numbers rushing for 200 yards on Sunday. No Panthers running back has done that since 2012. Even better than Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey never had a game, at least rushing yard wise, like Rico Dowdle had. And they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. And that's another thing that we need to be looking out for too, is we're starting to look forward and seeing what's happening over the course of the fantasy season is starting to shape up. Is that every week you get these things like, who are we starting all of our players against? Against the Bengals. We're starting them against the Cowboys. The Baltimore Ravens are now starting to become one of those teams. If we saw what happened on Sunday with the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud went out there and had 4 touchdown passes. Only one of them went to Nico Collins. Like, really? Like, CJ Stroud has 4 touchdowns and only one goes to Nico Collins? That seems virtually impossible. Instead, it goes to Xavier Hutchinson, who, by the way, went to Blinn. He went to that Blinn junior college, the one that Cam Newton went to back in the day. But still, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Bengals, like, this is a weird world that we're living in now, where the Ravens defense looks like one of those defenses. Maybe the Bears should trade for Roquan Smith. Get Roquan Smith back. Maybe something like that. But it's interesting because for so often you get so used to not like playing. You don't play you're like, oh, do I start so-and-so against the Baltimore Ravens? Now it's like, yeah, you're absolutely starting your studs against the Baltimore Ravens. Rico Dowdle had such a great game. I say that because he's playing the Dallas Cowboys this week. And it's going to be one of those things where I will draw the line is I'm not starting Bryce Young against him. I know a lot of people there's only 2 teams on a bye this week. And there's still a couple of concerns. There's a couple of injury concerns for quarterback, but people are like Bryce Young, maybe in a DFS slate, you can do that. What about Sam Darnold? At some point, do we just believe that Sam Darnold is a good quarterback? That Sam Darnold can get things done? I know a lot of people were apprehensive coming into this season, thinking that it was all KOC. KOC did all this great work. Now, if you're the Vikings, and I know that the Ginger, why can't I think of Carson Wentz's name? Once Carson Wentz went out there, like again, KOC is a good coach, is going to make players better. But at the same time, Sam Darnold is still thriving without playing for KOC, and I think that's significant. And again, if you're looking for a long-term quarterback solution, I don't know what you would have started with that leads you to be like, well, I need Sam Darnold, but there's going to be 2 quarterbacks on a bye. I did pick up Sam Darnold in a couple of spots. I picked up Justin Fields in a spot. Going out there, we got some pretty good spot starts. And again, it goes back to this thing, and I got bit. Well, I guess Lamar Jackson is the number one. That's the number one guy. So that is, good point. I see one of the comments here. Somebody's like, what about Lamar Jackson? Yeah, Lamar Jackson, who I don't expect to play this week because not only is he still battling through his injury, but the Baltimore Ravens are coming up on a bye. So for me, it makes the most sense to have Lamar Jackson sit out this week, then he gets the bye, and then he gets to return. Of course, he'll return in time to play the Bears. But still, Rico Dowdle. So I'm not going to go Bryce Young. Michael Carter, by the way. Michael Carter was the lead back for the Arizona Cardinals. It's interesting because obviously DeMarcado had that boneheaded play. At some point, these running backs or anybody, it's receivers, quarterbacks, whomever it is, run through the end zone. Make sure you clear the goal line. I know there's a lot of people who are arguing. They're like, no, DeMarcado, it looked like he crossed the goal. You know what? How about this? Erase all doubt. Erase all doubt. Don't go out there. Don't leave anything to chance. Run that. Be like Forrest Gump and run up into the tunnel with that football. Don't leave anything. You would have thought that a week after A.D. Mitchell that everybody would have been on board with like, you know what? Let's just be safe now. Let's make sure we're running through the end zone. We're getting everything sorted. Do that. But Michael Carter already played about he played about 60% of the snaps, had close to 70% of the carries. Michael Carter is the dude. We should have saw that coming. I did not see that one ahead of time. That's on me. That one is on me. By the way, Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is another guy. If you're starting with Bijan Robinson and you got him and you don't have Tyler Algier on your team as the handcuff, because like right now you know what your roster is and you know who on your team is not going to be playing. You got to solidify that. Tyler Algier. Ryan Flournoy, boy, I think last year Ryan Flournoy. He's a second year player. Was it Flournoy who last year I was talking up? And again, people are like, idiot. He'll never be good. And again, maybe this could be the same thing with Kamani Vidal. Maybe Ryan Flournoy will be these guys who in their second year go out there and make some noise. But we saw Ryan go out there and play really well. And again, I don't think the Jets are the best team in the NFL. As a matter of fact, there was a guy too at the golf course. I go to Middle Arc Golf Course a lot. There's a kid who works there named Hagan. He's a huge Lions fan. And he told me before the season started, he's like, dude, bro, I don't think you got the worst of the 2 Lions coordinators. I saw him this morning at the driving range, and he had a mea culpa. He's like, yeah, he's like, Matt, maybe Aaron Glenn isn't it? But in any event, that's a good one. Ryan Flournoy, for somebody who needs some help, it's not going to be a long-term answer because hopefully CeeDee Lamb is going to return at some point. Still somebody to keep an eye on. Torrey Horton also starting to show some flashes here or there. I think Torrey Horton is somebody that, again, if you have some spots on your roster, if you've had to drop some guys to the IR, I've seen some people. Somebody tweeted me earlier today talking about how their receiver room was, what was it? It wasn't Malik Neighbors and CeeDee Lamb, but it was something like that. Where you're like, yeah, that's going to be bad. If you put a couple of, oh no, you know what it was? It was CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill. And you're like, yep, that is going to be something. That is going to be somebody to look at. Kendrick Bourne is available in a lot of leagues. The 49ers, not a joke. They got an interesting matchup this week. The 49ers are going to be going on the road to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, of course, not necessarily a short turnaround with a late Sunday game. It's not like playing on Monday Night Football, but at the same time, you got to fly back across the country. I was over. I did a lot of things this morning. There was a kid I was talking to who was like, "What do you think about this week?" Because he did see me. Actually, I should take it back because Ryan. No, was it Ryan? Travis, Eric, whoever worked at the Adidas store. I had to make a return. And this is what I do. I get my stuff done. Monday's the only day that's live for NFL Fantasy Live. So I had to go out and get all my errands done today. But this kid's like, "Hey, you were the guy who picked the 49ers to win. You're the only one." I go, "Yeah, it was me." And he was asking me about this game with the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's going to be a tough one to call. And I got to make that decision by tomorrow. And I think I'm hopeful that we that he's going to be able to. Oh man, I haven't made a pick yet. All right, Xavier Worthy though. Good news, breaking news: Xavier Worthy is going to be starting this week. He's in there for the Kansas City Chiefs. For a lot of people, I know there is a risk. Don't let it be one of those things where it's like, "Hey, he's playing," and then he pulls his hamstring two plays in. As I'm sitting there jinxing it into oblivion by even talking about such a thing. I know. So Xavier Worthy is playing this week, but if you need some wide receiver help, I do like Kendrick Bourne. Ricky Pearsall's been battling a knee injury. That's kind of hampered him. We don't know when Juwan Jennings is somebody that I need to give up on. Like, I always have him around because I think he's a really good player. And you remember earlier this year, he was complaining about not getting a real contract, not getting his contract. But I think he's a really good option. Josh Downs is another one as well. So if you're out there watching the games, by the way, now I know next week, Monday Night Football, Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders, but on Sunday, where are you going to be on Sunday? Might I suggest hanging out at the Twisted Shamrock? The Twisted Shamrock is a place where Chicago sports come together. And we're talking about all true Chicago sports: Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire. It is the place to be on game day. They have giant monster TVs in their private party room over the bar, and of course in their awesome patio weather still holding on. You never know, it's the Midwest, but when they do, the patio is still on. You guys are Chicago strong. You can go out there. I gotta be honest with you, Twisted Shamrock is the place to be on game day. You want to go out there and you want to be there. They got great drink specials, great atmosphere, great people. It's a cool bar. Cool people hang out there. It's a lively atmosphere. The bartenders are a ton of fun. And they have the best old-fashioned in the entirety of the Midwest. Go to the Twisted Shamrock, the place to be on game day. Make sure you're going out there and having yourself a good time at Twisted Shamrock, the place to be on game days. I love that place. Again, trying to figure out when we're going to be able to go out to Chicago, flying into Midway, stopping immediately at Twisted Shamrock. One other name a couple other names I want to throw out there for you. For anybody who needs a tight end, Theo Johnson of the New York Giants. If you've noticed, the New York Giants do not stretch the ball down the field. Theo Johnson has been actively, very heavily involved in that Giants offense. So look out for him. A.J. Barner of the Seattle Seahawks. We know, again, that Clint Kubiak is using his tight ends to some nice efficiency. A.J. Barner has been awesome. Also, and this might be my favorite guy, Mason Taylor, the tight end of the New York Jets. Of course, I have Justin Fields in a number of spots. Mason Taylor has been great. He has run a route on 80% of Justin Field dropbacks and has an amazing 25% of the target share. Again, another quarterback who's not throwing the ball downfield with a great variety is Justin Fields, which means that Mason Taylor is a guy. Obviously, Garrett Wilson is the number one guy, and then Beck caught one of the touchdowns on Sunday. But Mason Taylor is somebody to go out there and add on your waiver wire. All right, want to thank everybody for being here on a Monday night. We'll let you know about next week. We'll be leading up to the Bears game, so there might not be a Fantasy Island, and if there is, we might be doing it a little bit early. But until that time, thank you so much for being here. Bear down, and Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.